Rumbling. The sky is vast, the thunder and thunder are rolling, and the boundless cloud covers the entire continent. This catastrophe has lasted for several years. The center of thunder and thunder has broken through a huge hole in the sky, and the black and crushing void storms continue to surge from it. Enter, there are countless colorful mysterious beams brewing in the fragmented space. Even if it is a great demon who has lived for hundreds of thousands of years, he dare not get a trace of it. Below the giant hole, a man in a blood-robed robe knelt down on the ground embarrassedly. It was a game difference, and he couldn't get through this robbery. Although I am dead, my soul is immortal. The man in the blood-robed robe suddenly looked up to the sky and screamed, and the next moment, 10,000 profound lights crashed down. Boom boom boom. A generation of Devil Emperor died in this way. 10,000 years have passed, and new grasses have gradually grown from the landforms once destroyed by the disaster. 50,000 years later, birds and beasts breed here. 100,000 years later, mountains and rivers formed here. Years go by, and new emperors rise and die from generation to generation. Countless years later, a small sword-repairing sect quietly settled here. Spirit Sword Sect, Hyushin. 16-year-old Han Yi is an ordinary outer disciple, and his threefold profound strength cultivation is one of the lowest among many outer disciples. This is not because he doesn't work hard. In fact, he comes to the back mountain every day to practice hard. The sword, the qualifications are also okay, otherwise he won't be able to enter the Spirit Sword Sect, but for some reason, no matter how hard he tries, he will not be able to catch up with his fellow students. Strange, why do you always feel groggy and want to sleep these days? Han Yi secretly asked. He only practiced the sword for a quarter of an hour today. He doesn't even count as a warm-up, but somehow, his spirit just can't be lifted. And during this period of time I had nightmares every day, always dreaming that I was slowly swallowed by a cloud of blood mist. But when Han Yi was startled, a fist-sized stone was thrown on his head. Who? Han Yi suddenly angered, and when he turned around, he saw the initiator walking towards him contemptuously. Junior brother Han, I'm sorry, I just want to try your swordsmanship. I didn't expect that you are still so bad, you can't even escape a stone. Zhu Jun said casually, and there were two people behind him, a condensing 5. Heavy, a 6-fold condensed chi. The three of them looked at Han Yi with unkind eyes, obviously they came here to ask for trouble. Han Yi's eyes breathed fire, and Zhu Jun's energy was fourfold, not much more powerful than him. If there was only one other person, he would have greeted him with a punch, but the other party's family background was very unusual, and those two followers were obviously not what he could contend now. Rushing impulsively will only be humiliated by the other party. Thinking of this, Han Yi had no choice but to forbearance, but the young man's heart, he still turned around and glared at Zhu Jun, then turned and left, but just staring at the other side was a bad thing. Yet? Not convinced? Zhao Si, junior brother Han has an opinion on the stone you threw, you go and discuss with him. Zhu Jun immediately used the topic to play. Zhao Si Ning Qi has 6 levels, and Han Yi only has 3 levels. One-sided rolling. Yes. Master. Zhao Si immediately responded, he looked at Han Yi sullenly, and then greeted the opponent with a fist. Boom. Han Yi was hit by this boxing and fainted directly. Zhao Si spat in disdain, and turned around to please Zhu Jun and asked, Master, do you want to abolish one of his hands? Looking at Han Yi, who fell unconscious on the ground, Zhu Jun nodded in satisfaction, and was about to agree. The 5-layered Majao next to him immediately answered, No, we are also outer disciples now, teach this. The kid is because of senior brother Zhou's orders, but if things go wrong, we risk being expelled from the Spirit Sword Sect. Zhu Jun's heart moved, and he immediately felt that what the other party said was reasonable, and nodded back, Yes, we are helping senior brother Zhou, but we can't put ourselves in it. Anyway, senior brother Zhou will take the action personally. Who will let this husband marry? Your wife is so beautiful, and she's still an inner disciple now. After speaking, the three of them drove away. 2 days later, in a simple house, Han Yi, who was lying on the bed, suddenly opened his eyes, and a blushing anger suddenly emanated from him, but he was quickly taken back into his body. The heavens and the earth have not changed their souls, the long night will see dawn. Han Yi sighed quietly, his eyes and body were completely different from before. I finally see the sun again. Han Yi suddenly smiled weirdly, but he then reduced his smile, behaving like Han Yi's usual, and then, he closed his eyes tightly and began to perceive the strength of this neighborhood. Bye. A moment later, a relaxed smile crossed the corner of Han Yi's mouth. He is very weak now. Fortunately, although there are many profound masters around here, there is not much that can find him strong. Of course, in order to avoid long nights and dreams, it is better to merge the original memory of this body first. Thinking like this, Han Yi sat cross-legged and began to fuse the various soul fragments in his brain. Interesting. Han Yi? There seems to be a cold in my name, but after too long, I can't remember what my name is. Han Yi, this is my current name. Hey? The magic way is declining, and there are no sects that have been suppressed by the right way. It turns out that I have fallen asleep for so long, and 9 great emperors have passed. An hour later, Han Yi merged all the memories of the original owner of the body, remembering that the original owner had no lack of aptitude and was very diligent, but it was difficult to advance in profound strength cultivation, so he suddenly smiled. Nether demon body practiced all kinds of magic skills in a day, but it is not suitable for sword repair. Han Yi smiled slightly, the original owner of this body is really related to him. Nether monsters are rare even in their own time. This kind of physique naturally attracts evil and attracts demons. Many demonic heroes are extremely eager for it, but if ordinary people have this kind of physique, they will suffer from bad luck. When thinking of the process of inheriting this body, Han Yi couldn't help but think of Zhu Jun. Although he was awakened by the ghost body, he appeared in the dream of the original owner of the body, but without Zhao Si's punch. He wanted it may take a long time to fully grasp the sovereignty of this body. After all, the will of the original owner of this body is very strong. In this way, the 3 of Zhu Jun helped them indirectly. Well, I want to reward them. Han Yi muttered to himself, and then a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, then, reward them to be the first to drain their blood. After making up his mind, Han Yi went through all the people familiar with the original owner of the body in his head. Reading www.udgonshu.com quickly arranged everyone in the order of sucking blood. He was meant to do harm to the common people. The big demon, blood-sucking practice is not a big deal for him. As for the relationship of the relatives, that is the matter of the original owner of the body. For himself, the blood of close relatives is the best training material. However, my current strength is too weak, so I only condense the 3-fold energy. I have to increase my profound strength first. In addition, I must practice magic skills in secret. Han Yi said secretly, and then prepared to practice profound strength, but at this moment, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Brother Han, Miss Kyugju has come to see you. Han Yi frowned slightly, but soon found the corresponding memory. The one who called him senior brother was also a foreigner disciple, named Luo Gang, who had the same profound strength as himself, but the other party just started this year. But he has been in the Spirit Sword sect for 4 years. As for the Miss Chu Shui that the other party said was his fiancée, this was decided by the Han family and the Yin family. Haha! Interesting! Han Yi laughed softly. The original owner of his own body was very fond of Yin Kyugju, but although the two had a marriage contract, Yin Kyugju was an inner disciple of the Spirit Sword sect. There was a huge gap between the two of the profound masters who entered the Toiwan realm, and they would get farther and farther in the future. Naturally, Yin Kaixiu didn't want to marry a man who was weaker than herself, so she always kept a respectful attitude towards Han Yi. This is Han Yi's existing memory. What interests him is that what good will happen if the other party suddenly comes to see him at this time. You reading book friends are welcome to visit and read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serial works are all in UU Reading. For mobile phone users, please go to read. There were only Han Yi and Yin Kaixiu in the house. Luo just left after Yin Kaixiu entered the house. Yin Kaixiu is 15 years old this year, and she is a beauty that no one knows about in the Spirit Sword sect. She is dressed in white with long black hair hanging down her waist. She is sitting opposite Han Yi at the moment, and she does not speak immediately, although she is here nominally. It depends on the other party, but according to previous experience, Han Yi will immediately drive himself away from the cold and warmth. If he is in a better mood, he will deal with 2 sentences at will, otherwise, he will leave the other party in the air for a long time, and wait until the other party can't find it. Topic: When the embarrassment was embarrassing, I would say a few more words, so that the conversation between the 2 parties would become one's own, and the other side would not dare to say a word of no. However, a quarter of an hour passed, and 2 quarters passed. Han Yi didn't even look at Yin Kaixiu. He calmly began to practice the magic power of the blood, which can temper his own blood, strengthen the body in the early stage, and have special magical powers in the later stage. After half an hour, Yin Kaixiu gradually became irritable, and she finally became impatient when she waited. Today's Han Yi is very different from usual, but she can't tell the specifics about the difference, but feels that the longer she stays here. I have a creepy illusion. Han Yi, I heard that you were in a coma for 2 days. Yin Kaixiu finally broke the silence. She tried to make her voice gentle. At this time, Han Yi happened to refine the blood of his whole body, and the profound strength in his body was therefore further enhanced. As long as there is enough time, he can break through to the 4th level of qi condensation at any time. Hearing Yin Kaixiu's question, Han Yi also stopped practicing, and he replied plainly, "Just explain your intentions, I don't want to waste time." Yin Kaixiu was a little surprised. What happened to Han Yi today? How come you are so indifferent to yourself? Under normal circumstances, shouldn't the other party be excited about oneself immediately if he cares about this sentence? Yin Kaixiu thought so in her heart, but she always kept a gentle smile on her face. It seems that Han Yi is not stupid. I should have guessed the reason why I was looking for him today. Yin Kaixiu secretly said in her heart. She touched the space ring in her hand. There is 1,000 spirit stones in it, enough for an ordinary family for a whole year. No matter how extravagant Han Yi is, it will be enough for a long time, and she has also prepared a lot of spiritual materials to improve her cultivation. I want to dissolve the marriage contract. Yin Kaixiu said calmly, this will hurt the other party. If the other party refuses, she will immediately give the other party the 1,000 spirit stones. If it is not enough, then give more compensation. Of course, this may be an insult to the other party, but who calls the other party a weak person? The weak have no dignity. Han Yi tilted his head, there was no fluctuation on his face. He asked calmly, so sincere? Sincere? Yin Kaixiu's eyebrows frowned. Sincerity is only needed to sign a marriage contract. She is retiring now because she doesn't have the sincerity to marry the other party. What the other party said is deliberately making things difficult for herself. Seeing Yin Kaixiu didn't answer, Han Yi frowned. He immediately said sternly, the marriage contract was made by our fathers. It's not that you can't marry if you don't want to marry. You are not sincere, how can I explain to my father? Not only will you not agree, but you will also be told to Uncle Yin Feng, and then you will make the Spirit Sword sect all know about your unfaithfulness, and filial piety. Yin Kaixiu's face suddenly became gloomy. For a girl, reputation is second only to beauty. Is Han Yi going to die with himself in this pose? snapped. Yin Kaiozhu patted the table, and she got up from the chair. Han Yi. Don't know what is good or bad. Just say what you want, but the marriage must be retired. Otherwise, you will be at your own risk. Yin Kaiozhu warned threateningly. Han Yi was unmoved, and even crossed Erlang's legs. He pointed to the space ring on the opponent's hand and said, "That's right. I don't want much. First, I will get 100,000 spiritual stones. 100,000 spirit stones." Yin Kaiozhu's eyes widened, she pointed to the other person and said, "Is this the sincerity you said?" "Of course. What can represent sincerity more than money?" Han Yi smiled relaxedly. Yin Kaiozhu's face was cold. This Han Yi is really not a good thing. It turns out that he doesn't like himself, but his family's property. Thinking of this, Yin Kaiozhu felt light-hearted, as long as the other party agrees to divorce. 100,000 spirit stones is impossible. 5,000 spirit stones, and I will give you 10 more qi-enhancing pills, 5 white snow ginseng pills, 1 body tempering pill, and a medium-grade green steel sword. Yin Kaiozhu suddenly said that 100,000 spirit stones are nothing short of a fairy tale, and her father, the patriarch of the Yin family, couldn't possibly take out so many spirit stones at once. Han Yi immediately shook his head, and asked unceremoniously, "I'll give you 5,000 spiritual stones, can you sleep with me?" "This is impossible." Yin Kaiozhu said angrily. "Yes. But I won't accept your 5,000 spirit stones, I can sleep with you in the future." Han Yi smiled, seeing that the other party was about to break out, he suddenly looked very cold, and said coldly, 100,000 spirits stone, no one can be less. There is no sincerity of this, what kind of marriage are you going to retreat? Yin Kaiozhu's chest rises and falls. She has never experienced this kind of battle. She is not as old and cunning as Han Yi. Seeing that there is no room for relaxation, she directly understands, at most 10,000. I only have this in my hand. Many. Well, if you don't look like a lot of money, I'll take a step back, 90,000 spiritual stones. You. I don't have 9,000 spirit stones either. Then borrow it. As long as there are enough spirit stones, I can now go back to my father and destroy the marriage deed. 15,000. This is my limit. Make a deal. Yin Kaiozhu breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. To come up with such a large sum of assets, she has to use a lot of relationships, but compared with her own freedom, this loss is acceptable. The only thing that annoyed her was that the circumstances of this dissolution of the marriage contract were very wrong. The other party completely regarded this marriage contract as a sale, which gave her the illusion that the other party was selling her. Let you be proud of it for a while, after the marriage contract is dismissed, I see if you can laugh out. Yin Kaiozhu secretly said in her heart, and at the same time took out the pen and paper to sign the receipt with the other party. But at this time, Han Yi went on to say, the spirit stone is over, then let's talk about the spirit material. What? Yin Kaiozhu suddenly asked in shock. The other party has already asked for 15,000 spiritual stones, but he still wants to ask for more spiritual materials. Han Yi ignored Yin Kaiozhu's astonishment. He said, of course, replace the qi-enhancing pill you just mentioned with Xing Yuan Dan, the number is 100, and the white snow ginseng is replaced by spirit blood ginseng. 50 plants are enough. No need for Dan and Qing Gang sword, just get me a pill refining furnace. Yin Kaiozhu stared at Han Yi in a daze. The effects of the qi enrichment pill and the enrichment pill were to directly increase the profound power of the profound master. However, the former was only effective for disciples of the condensed qi realm, while the latter was able to affect the profound master of the Toiwan realm. Useful, the price gap between the two is huge, not to mention that Han Yi asked for 100. The price of Lingxiu ginseng is 10 times that of Baixiu ginseng and 50 times that of qi enhancing pill. Finally, there is the alchemy furnace. There is no such thing in the Yin family, and the entire spirit sword sect only has a third-tier medicine furnace. Yin Kaiozhu was furious, and the 5,000 spiritual stones alone consumed all her savings over the years, and even the extra 5,000 had to be borrowed. Now the other party is starting to ask for prices again, not to mention that pill alchemy furnace, even 50 spiritual blood ginseng, the dowry her father prepared for her is not enough. Thinking of this, Yin Kaiozhu made the final concession, 5 Zhengyuan pills www.mentalnovel.com 2 spirit blood ginseng, there is no alchemy furnace. Han Yi frowned slightly. Although he incorporated the memory of the original owner, he didn't know much about the Yin family's financial resources. He didn't know what to do when he saw things. He didn't insist anymore, but secretly surprised that the alchemy furnace was not something difficult to cast. How do you think Yin Kaiozhu's appearance seems to be more valuable than spirit blood ginseng? In this case, forget the alchemy furnace, with 50 yuan enriching pills and 40 spiritual blood ginseng. It's still too much. Don't need Zhengyuan pill, just 40 plants of spirit blood ginseng. There are up to 7 spirit blood ginseng plants. 7 plants are 7 plants, make me 33 Zhengyuan dan. After a fierce bargaining, the two finally reached an agreement, 20 Zhengyuan pills and 7 spirit blood ginseng. You want too many things, I can only gather it in a month. When preparing to sign the receipt, Yin Kaiozhu said stiffly. Although she finally broke off the marriage contract as she wished, she really couldn't be happy. The price of retiring was too great. It's so big that she almost agreed to the marriage halfway through. This is simple, you can give me as much as you can now, and write me 2 ES for the rest. Han Yi replied indifferently. Then when will you give me the marriage deed? Yin Kaiozhu asked immediately. Don't have to be so troublesome, when you finish writing your IOU, I will write you a letter of resignation immediately. Shut up. That's right, you took the divorce letter to my father to file a complaint, and you are afraid that he will not return the marriage deed to you. Everything went smoothly. Yin Kaiozhu was afraid that the other party would regret it. After getting the resignation, she quickly left here www.mentalnovel.com. Welcome to read the latest, fastest, and hottest serial works. At www.mentalnovel.com mobile phone users please go to read. Looking at the 2 ES that Yin Kaiozhu had just signed, Han Yi slowly revealed a bloodthirsty smile, I accept the Lingxi, but you are still mine. After finishing speaking, Han Yi put down the things in his hand. In addition to the 2 ES, he also got 1,000 spirit stones and 10 ki enhancing pills from Yin Kaiozhu's hand, which was exactly the same as 1 yuan enhancing pills. The most basic training resources have finally arrived. Of course, this is just the beginning. How could the daughter of the Yin family be worthy of this? Coming to Japan, I will wait for the other party to squeeze out the last trace of use value, and I will definitely satisfy the other party's long-cherished wish to divorce, as long as the other party is still alive at that time. In the next time, Han Yi began to break through the 4 levels of condensation. An hour later, Han Yi walked out of the house with ease, and when he thought about it, the fourfold profound energy of Qi condensing Qi was about to move in his body. The effect of Nether Demon Body's practice of magic power is indeed twice the result with half the effort. According to his current trend, he will be able to break through to the 5-fold level of condensing Qi in just 10 days. However, breaking through a small realm in 10 days, especially the small realm of the condensation realm, is slow for Han Yi. Blood finger, blood, heart, blood, sky, blood, 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 beast, blood, God. Han Yi said silently. Now the sky is dark and there are no people on the mountain road. Then practice bleeding fingers. A moment later, Han Yi came to the back mountain of the Zongmen. This is where he fell. His bones were buried in the deep underground of this land. At the same time, he was buried with little power left. It's a pity that there is no melting pot in your hand, otherwise you can build a natal demon soldier." Han Yi shook his head and sighed. He scanned his eyes and made sure that he was the only one here, then found a hidden place to sit down, and then pressed his right hand. On the ground, the light red blood aura suddenly came out, and soon sank into the ground. Half an hour later, Han Yi sweated from his forehead, and his right hand pressed on the ground began to tremble violently. The profound strength is really not enough. It seems that this matter can only be carried out after I step into the real martial state. Han Yi secretly said in his heart, and then suddenly retracted his right hand. His breath suddenly became very weak. After taking a sigh of relief, Han Yi began to use the magic power of the blood. Because he had already condensed the 4th level of Qi, his blood-quenching speed was much faster than before. It only took a quarter of an hour to recover all the profound energy. But just when Han Yi got up to go back, he suddenly heard a sound of footsteps coming from far and near. Someone noticed that I was practicing magic skills here. Han Yi was suspicious, but immediately denied this possibility. 3 people, 1 condensing 6-fold, 2 early stages of extension, it's just the early stage of extension, they found out can't stop me. Sure enough, the 3 of them gradually approached, but they stopped a few feet away from Han Yi. 2 of them were sisters. They looked about 20 years old and had very beautiful births. They were more beautiful than Yin Kaiexu. It's not as good, but they are not far apart. Both of them have profound strengths in the early stage of the Toiwan realm, and at first glance, they are both inner disciples. 2 elder sisters, no one will come here at night. We are here to discuss important matters and will not be discovered by anyone. Among the 3, the disciple of condensed Qi 6th layer took the lead to speak. Hearing this, Han Yi, who was watching the show, suddenly raised his brows. What a coincidence! This 6th condensed Qi disciple was not someone else, it was Zhao Si who helped him that day. I was thinking about when to thank the other person, and the other person took the initiative to come to the door. Funny. Even if someone sees it, Zhu Jun is the unlucky one. What's up with our sisters? Sun Yiyao replied unceremoniously. Her younger sister Sun Yuxin doesn't like to talk, and her sister is responsible for this kind of negotiation. Zhao Si laughed awkwardly. He didn't dare to refute the other 2, not only because he was too weak in strength, but also because the sisters were the 2 most beloved granddaughters of the 5th elder of the Spirit Sword sect. Sister Sun, there will be an inner disciple assessment in 3 days. My young master would like to ask you a favor. Zhao Si said cautiously, while holding a jade slip tightly in his hand. The reason why he has the confidence to follow this pair, the sisters made the offer because of the jade slip in her hand. First show me the earth fire pill refining art. Sun Yiyao said forcefully. Zhao Si suddenly looked hesitant. The earth fire alchemy technique was the jade slip in his hand. This is the alchemy technique handed down by the ancestors of the Zhu family, and it is usually stored in the pavilion's pavilion as the treasure of the town's family. Being able to enter the inner gate of the Spirit Sword sect, and deliberately stealing this treasure of the town from the pavilion when the patriarch was away, the other party hasn't promised anything yet. How can this fire alchemy art be easily handed to the other party? Thinking of this, Zhao Si shook his head with difficulty. He said, the basic requirement for entering the inner gate of the Spirit Sword sect is the 6th level of Qi condensation, and my young master only has the 4th level. Sun Yiyao frowned slightly, but when she thought of the important value of earth fire alchemy art, she finally resisted the attack on the spot. Hey! For the sake of senior brother Zhou, I will help your young master this time. Sun Yiyao said in disgust, and then took out a jade bottle. There are 3 Qi-enhancing pills in it, 1 per day. 3 days later, it is not a problem for Zhu Jun's profound strength to increase to the 7th level of Qi condensation. Zhao Si was overjoyed. The Qi-enhancing pill, which directly improves the realm, is only available in the inner sect of Spirit Sword sect, and not all inner sect disciples can get it. It has great potential and hope before the age of 30. It's impossible for a disciple who sprints to the real martial realm to encounter it. Only when the sister's surnamed son had the 5 elders backing, or Yin Kaiuxiu's sweet girl of the sky could take out a few at a time, even the inner disciple Zhou brother could not do this. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. However, even if Zhu Jun's profound energy reaches the 7th level of condensed energy, he would not be so easy to enter the inner door. The inner door assessment can not only test the profound energy, the actual combat is the key. Sun Yiyao continued, and then she thought of it. What? He shook his head immediately. I almost forgot, you have a good relationship with senior brother Zhou, and he is responsible for the actual combat this year. You should be fine if you think about it. Zhao Si suddenly laughed. He couldn't answer this question easily. He took the jade bottle, opened the bottle cap and smelled it. It was determined that it was the 3 Qi enhancing pill, and immediately handed the earth fire alchemy technique to the opponent. Sun Yiyao was excited, and soon sinked into the jade slip. After a while, her face was full of joy. The 3 Qi enhancing pills were replaced by a set of alchemy methods. This is really too profitable. No, it should be said that Zhu Jun is really stupid. Okay, then I wish your master Zhu Jun success in his cultivation and enter the inner gate as soon as possible. Sun Yiyao casually said politely, and then quickly took her sister away from the back mountain. After the Sun Yiyao sisters left, Zhao Si was still standing alone, his eyes hot on the jade bottle in his hand. Qi Qi Dan. This is a Qi enhancing pill that can directly improve the realm. There are 3, do you want to embezzle one? No one here anyway. I helped the young master to do such a big event, and there is not much reward for a Qi enhancing pill. Zhao Si said to himself, and quickly took out one of the Qi enhancing pills from the jade bottle and hid it in the jade bottle. In his arms. After finishing all this, Zhao Si was ready to go back to his life, but at this moment, a hand penetrated his heart without warning. Yu reading book friends are welcome to visit and read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serial works are all in Yu reading. For mobile phone users, please go to read. Kill with one blow. Zhao Si will never look down. Han Yi ran the magic power of blood and sucked all the blood in Zhao Si's body into his palm. This kind of sneak attack method has always been despised in the right way, but Han Yi doesn't care about it at all. Why should he care about that little infamy if he wants to make a big thing? Besides, it is impossible for anyone to know that this was done by himself. After sucking all the blood, Han Yi's entire right arm swelled 3 or 4 times, and the dense blood vessels on his arm were clearly visible, while Zhao Si became a corpse and was thrown aside mercilessly. Lian! Han Yi shouted in his heart, and the skin on his right arm suddenly became red. Then, fist-sized blood packs moved continuously in his right arm, the speed from slow to fast, and after a while, his whole body, the right arm, was completely unrecognizable, and it looked like a distorted, deformed monster at a glance. This process lasted for half an hour. Han Yi's eyes were blushing, and the sharp pain from his right arm constantly stimulated his nerves, but there was a fascinating smile on the corner of his mouth, as if this kind of severe pain was indispensable to him. More enjoyment. The right arm gradually recovered, the blood pack in his veins shrank a lot, and it began to flow towards Han Yi's heart. Then, the breath on his body rose rapidly. After a few breaths, Han Yi's right arm returned to normal, and the profound energy in his body rose from the 4th level of condensing energy to the 5th level of condensing energy. Breaking through 2 small realms in a day, this is something that is impossible in the eyes of ordinary people, but it is insignificant to Han Yi. He is the demon, the magic power of cultivation. If the growth of profound strength is slow, then it is because of not doing enough things that hurt the nature and the conscience. Han Yi found 3 Qi-enhancing pills and 2 spirit stones from Zhao Si's mummy, but there was nothing of value other than that. Zinqi pill. Haha. Han Yiwei smiled. In fact, medicines like Zinqi pill or Xingyuan pill that directly raise the realm have great side effects. The most obvious point is that it will shake the foundation, and if you take too much, the profound energy will never progress. Come on to Zhu Junna to see, I'm going to condense the sixth energy tonight. Han Yi thought lightly. He didn't plan to deal with Zhao Si's corpse at all. The other party was killed after meeting two female disciples of the inner sect. Yes, this matter can be found only by checking, who would doubt it? After cleaning up all the traces left by him, Han Yi walked towards the residence of the outer disciple. In a spacious house, Zhu Jun sat on a chair with an excited expression. He was holding a note in his hand and was slowly reading. Senior brother Zhou asked us to continue to trouble with Han Yi's waist, and to find out what Yin Kaiexia was looking for during the day. Zhu Jun said with a grin. Ma Gao, who was sitting at the side, smiled and said, "That's not easy. We will beat Zhao Si again when we come back." "That's right. But this time, apart from teaching the boy a good meal, you can't forget senior brother Zhou's instructions." Zhu Jun continued, thinking of the things senior brother Zhou promised him. He was very excited. There are still 3 days. After 3 days, not only will he be able to become an inner disciple, but senior brother Zhou will also give him an extra middle grade exercise. Once he breaks through the Toiwan realm, he won't have a chance to compete for the next patriarch of the Zhu family. Bit. The young master is wise. When the young master enters the inner door, don't forget to promote the younger one. Ma Gao immediately replied flatteringly. Don't worry. Be harder in a while, this young master won't treat you badly. The two were chatting in the room when they suddenly heard 2 slight knocks on the door. Zhu Jun immediately refreshed, and said hurriedly, "Zhao Si is back, go and open the door." The horse nodded high, and immediately ran towards the gate. Creak. The door opened, and in front of the door stood a figure familiar to Ma Gao, but it was not Zhao Si, but Han Yi. Han Yi. Ma Gao's expression was taken aback, but then he returned to normal, and a sharp look flashed in his eyes. "I have something to do with young Master Zhu, can I come in?" Han Yi asked with a smile, and walked into the house without waiting for Ma Gao to answer. Boom! Ma Gao immediately closed the door and inserted the door bolt with his hands and feet skillfully. Seeing this, Han Yi looked as usual, as if he didn't know that the only escape route had been blocked. He continued walking towards the house, and soon saw Zhu Jun sitting in a chair. "Yet? Junior brother Han? Come to me for tea at this late hour?" Zhu Jun asked with a smile, slightly surprised at Han Yi's sudden arrival, but let him go. "Wouldn't it be better for the other party to vote for the net?" Han Yi smiled unabated. He walked to Zhu Jun and sat down. This is where Ma Gao sat just now, and the latter followed from behind. "Master Zhu, I have some qi-enhancing pills here, don't know if you are interested?" Han Yi asked very casually. Zhu Jun was about to signal Ma Gao to do his hand, and when he heard this, he immediately dismissed him and smiled. "Of course I am interested, but there are a lot of counterfeit qi-enhancing pills these days. Where did junior brother Han get it?" "Yin Kaiexia gave it," Han Yi said as he stretched out his hand in his arms. Snapped. 10 qi-enhancing pills were taken on the table by Han Yi generously, and the strong smell of the pill suddenly rushed into the nostrils of the 3. "This Dangxiang is really a qi-enhancing dan." 10. How come so many? Zhu Jun and Ma Gao were taken aback at the same time, staring at the Qi Dan on the counter without turning. At this time, Zhu Jun seemed to hear a somewhat unusual voice, but he didn't care. While he reached out to grab the Qi Dan on the counter, he greedily said to Han Yi, "Junior brother Han, I want all of this. Ling Xiao's first." However, the words are not finished yet. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Zhu Jun felt a palm of his hand suddenly pinched his throat like pliers. Zhu Jun suddenly struggled. He looked at Han Yi in fright. He didn't know how the opponent had such a strong hand. He turned to look at Ma Gao, wondering why the opponent couldn't help him. But from this look, he suddenly lost his soul. Gulu. Guru. Han Yi's left hand pierced Ma Gao's heart a long time ago, and he was constantly sucking blood, while his right hand was pinching Zhu Jun's neck, not killing him for the time being. Zhu Jun was horrified, and his eyes were very wide. He was distracted just for a moment. Ma Gao was a five-fold profound master with condensed energy, one heavier than himself. How could he be killed in a blink of an eye? What evil technique did Han Yi practice? Of course, he has no answer to this question. Plop! Ma Gao, who turned into a corpse, was thrown to the ground by Han Yi, and then Han Yi Rufa made a cannon, and his hand knife pierced Zhu Jun's heart again. An hour later, Han Yi stood calmly in the room. After he finished sucking his blood, his profound strength climbed to the 6th level of condensing qi without accident. There were 2 mummy corpses lying under his feet, one with horsehide and the other with stool. It's Zhu Jun. Tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, consolidate the foundation, and then rush to qi condensation 7th layer. Han Yi said lightly. He took out the jade bottle he found from Zhao Si and contained 3 qi enhancing pills from Sun Yi Yao, and then threw it in. Under the window, it looked like someone had accidentally dropped the jade bottle on his body when he went out through the window, and then he jumped out of the window. It is a simple and practical method to plant and blame. I think the Spirit Sword sect will be very lively tomorrow morning. You reading book friends are welcome to visit and read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serial works are all in UU Reading. For mobile phone users, please go to read. The sky is day and night, and the land is divided into 5 regions. The mountains in the east are called the east boundary, the south is the sea and the vast expanse is the South China Sea, the grassland to the west is barren, commonly known as Ziwan, the glaciers in the north are uninhabited, and this is Baijuan. And Zhongzhou has everything, the most powerful among the 5 domains. In addition to geographical divisions, people also have differences between high and low. This world is full of heaven and earth aura. In ancient times, some strange people with extraordinary talents could sense such aura. Through various methods, they captured the aura and enhanced it. For himself, such a person is called a profound master, and the method of capturing spiritual energy is called a technique. After the efforts of countless sages, the strength of the profound master is divided into 9 realms: condensing qi, Toiwan, Jinyu, brightness, broken, fate wheel, Taixu, Tianguan, Daijiao. The more you want to reach a higher realm, the more you need qualifications. Therefore, regardless of the sect or the family, the disciples with outstanding qualifications are always superior in status. Han Yi looked at the classics in his hand, and suddenly sighed, no one has succeeded. The world after the Dao tribulation is still a mystery. Thinking of things in his mind, Han Yi didn't plan to go out today. 2 days have passed since the night he practiced magic arts. What surprised him was that the killing of Zhu Jun and others has not spread until now, and I don't know that it is spiritual. Jianzong has been investigating secretly, or is it that no one has noticed that there are 3 people missing from the outer door? My blood qi has been completely calmed down, and today I can break through the 7th level of condensed qi. Han Yi secretly said in his heart that he wants to increase his profound strength as soon as possible to surpass his previous life. 3 knocks on the door. Han Yi knew who it was this time. He put down the classics in his hand and said loudly, "Come in." "Brother Han, are you looking for me?" Luo asked as soon as he entered the house. Han Yi nodded. He pointed to the chair opposite to him and said, "Sit down." Luo Gang sat down with a puzzled look. He had a very good relationship with Han Yi, but because of this, he felt that the other party's situation was very wrong these days. The temperament of his eyes changed, and the tone of his speech was completely different. The important thing is that the opponent used to go to Hushan to practice swords as long as he was free, but now he has been bored in the house reading books, which makes him feel extraordinarily weird. "Senior brother Han, why haven't you been to the back mountain to practice swords in these 2 days? Luo Gang asked tentatively. Yin Kaiuxia forced me to divorce, so I'm not in the mood to practice. Han Yi casually responded, and then asked, do you know where there are alchemy furnaces for sale? When he heard the previous sentence, Luo Gang was stunned at first, and was about to say something to comfort the other party, but then he heard the latter sentence again, so he was dumbfounded. Refining, alchemy furnace. Luo Gang stared at Han Yi in a daze, and said with horror, Brother Han, there is nowhere to sell those things. The entire Spirit Sword sect only has a Tier 3 medicine furnace. If you want to make alchemy, you must become an inner disciple first, and then pass the Dantang test. Han Yi frowned suddenly. The original owner of this body only knew how to practice swords and never asked about external things. Therefore, his common sense in this area is really pitiful. The Tier 3 medicine furnace can be cast only by a profound master in the true martial state. Doesn't the Spirit Sword sect have many deacons and elders in the true martial state? Han Yi continued to ask. He wants to refine several kinds of magic pills. There are many great figures in the real martial arts realm in the sect, but the core layout of the casting alchemy furnace has been lost in ancient times. Except for a few masters, no one can refine the simplest first-order medicine furnace. Luo Gang explained immediately. Hearing this, Han Yi's heart suddenly moved. The core layout of the alchemy furnace was lost, and even the alchemy furnace was gone. Then the alchemy of this era has fallen in a mess? Hehe, this is awesome. I remember, tomorrow is the inner gate assessment, right? Han Yi asked again. Yeah. Let's go see the excitement together. Luo Gang said eagerly, with a look of fascination on his face. His current profound strength only has 3 levels of condensed energy, and he still does not meet the conditions for participating in the inner gate assessment, but this does not prevent him from making this the goal of his own efforts. Good idea, remember to call me tomorrow. Han Yi replied with a smile. The two chatted a few more trivial things, and Han Yi casually found a reason to dismiss each other, and soon he was left alone in the house. Han Yi no longer wasted time, and immediately began to use the magic power of the blood. The blood in his body has been tempered nearly 20 times, and his muscles and bones have been qualitatively transformed. It was already difficult for the weapon to stab him, and this was an effect that the body tempering pill was also difficult to achieve. With the passage of time, the aura on Han Yi's body gradually strengthened. Hell blood magic art is the top magic method. Even if you don't inhale human essence and blood, the condensing realm will not encounter any bottlenecks, plus the ghost body due to his own characteristics, his current cultivation speed is really rapid. After a short while, Han Yi's body was filled with blood mist, and his profound strength had already faintly broken through the 7 layers of condensing qi, but the spiritual energy around him was too thin. He wanted to truly break through the 7 layers of condensing qi, but it would not happen in a while. After realizing this, Han Yi quickly took out 2 spirit stones and put them in his hands, and then the magic power of blood and blood gathered in the palm of his hand, immediately generating 2 invisible cyclones. Zi zi zi. The cyclone frantically sucked the aura in the spirit stone and transferred it into Han Yi's body through the palm of his hand. After a while www.mtlnovel.com the aura was exhausted, and the 2 spirit stones turned into powder, and then Han Yi would take out 2 new ones again. After 14 spiritual stones were consumed in this way, the profound energy in Han Yi finally broke through the 6-fold shackles of condensing qi, reaching the 7th stage of condensing qi. Hey! Han Yi opened his eyes and let out a stale breath, which was mixed with a thin mist of blood. When he touched the wall, he immediately made 2 babbles, corroding a layer of lime. This demonic body is really easy to use. Han Yi suddenly praised. He looked at the corroded wall, his eyes were burning, with the blood of innate demonic nature. Even if I don't take the magic pill, my profound strength will be corroded to a certain extent. If this is the case, I can practice the blood palm first. Blood palm is different from blood finger. The former is a martial art, and the latter is a secret technique. Martial technique is the clever use of profound strength. The secret law is relatively mysterious. Generally, there are various harsh conditions when practicing. Han Yi can't train the blood finger now. The blood palm had to take the magic pill before he could cultivate, but because of the ghost body, he can now practice the blood palm in advance, but it is less powerful. Thinking of this, Han Yi went out and walked out. He wanted to buy a lot of things, such as the spiritual material for cultivating the blood palm, the spiritual material for refining the magic pill, the blood of the monster beast, the rune pen for drawing the formation, and a handy hand weapon. However, when he arrived at the Bibao pavilion of the Zongmen, he discovered that there were very few things that he could buy with spirit stones. Except for some ordinary swords and herbs that can be picked up in the mountains, everything he wanted to buy had to be of martial art. Points can only be exchanged, and as an outside disciple, the points he possesses is a big zero. It seems that this internal assessment must be attended. Han Yi sighed secretly. www.mtlnovel.com book friends are welcome to visit and read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serial works are all at www.mtlnovel.com for mobile phone users. Please go to read. The weather is fine and sunny. On the square of the Spirit Sword sect, Zhou Hu stood proudly. He was a disciple under the seat of the second elder and the person in charge of the inner gate assessment. Next to him stood two young girls, one was his junior sister Fan Zhen, and the other one is Yin Kaiexu. The three of them stood on a 1-meter arena. The crowd underneath was divided into two large pieces. One was an outer disciple of the Spirit Sword sect. There were more than 1,000 of them, and most of them came to watch the excitement. Only a few people passed the stage with profound strength. Can participate in this assessment. While the other group of people are all inner disciples, there are only a dozen people, but they occupy half of the square. Most of their eyes are focused on Yin Kaiexu, occasionally glancing at the side. Most of the outer disciples, their eyes are also full of disdain. You said, who can pass the assessment this year? One of the inner disciples asked aside. Haha. Although it is possible to participate in the inner gate assessment as long as the profound strength reaches the 6th level of condensed qi, according to the experience of previous years, there is no possibility that the profound strength can pass the Toiwen realm. What you said is wrong. Didn't junior sister Yin pass the assessment last year with Qi Qi Bazhong? Several elders were alarmed at that time. Hey! Junior sister Yin is extremely talented, and the 8th layer of condensed qi has the power of the Toiwen realm. How can ordinary cats and dogs be compared with her? This is also true. It is said that she can break through the Toiwen realm a long time ago, but she just wants to open up the top-grade fantasy sword Yuan Hai, so she has been suppressing her cultivation. The voice of the audience is getting louder and louder. Zhou Hu is also a little impatient to wait. He is the person in charge of this assessment. It is good, but there is another person who is really in charge of the overall situation, and he is waiting for that person now. Hao Li, the 8th elder of the Spirit Sword sect. Sister Yin, what do you think? I've been depressed these days. Who has been bullied by someone? At this moment, Fan Zhen, who was next to her, suddenly asked in a low voice. Zhou Hu straightened his ears immediately. He was one of Yin Kaiexu's many suitors. Hearing something about the other party at the moment, his attention was immediately drawn to him. I lack some spirit stones and want to go home. Yin Kaiexu answered without concealment. Cough cough. Before Fan Zhen could answer, Zhou Hu cleared his throat immediately, and graciously rushed, Sister Yin, I don't know how many spiritual stones are missing. Brother, my spiritual stones are very generous. Thank you Brother Zhou for your concern, but this is my personal business. Yin Kaiexu replied flatly. The rejection in the words was very obvious. However, as soon as he heard the word private affair, Zhou Hu's spirits immediately came. How could this good opportunity for courtesy be let go? He immediately put on his senior brother's air and replied solemnly, Sister Yin, what are you talking about? You are about to Toiwan now, and the Yin family is only half a month away from the Spirit Sword sect. It's a waste of time to come and go. It will even affect your chance of breakthrough. Yin Kaiozhu frowns her eyebrows slightly. This is why she is embarrassed now, but if she doesn't go back, where can she get the 14,000 spirit stones? Not to mention there are 7 priceless ginseng plants. Seeing the hesitation on Yin Kaiozhu's face, Zhou Hu was overjoyed, and he went on to say, Sister Yin, if you don't dislike it, I happen to have 500 lingxi here for you to take for emergency. Anyway, this is not big money. As long as it can solve the troubles of junior sister. Zhou Hu's words were bold, but he felt a deep pain in his heart. 500 spirit stones were not a small number. If he took out so many spirit stones at once, his cultivation during this period of time would definitely be greatly affected, but in order to win the love of a beautiful woman, this effort is necessary. Hearing this, the mockery in Yin Kaiozhu's eyes flashed by, and she replied plainly, 500 spirit stones, it's really not a big money. After, there is no more text. Zhou Hu's face became stiff, and he immediately understood that the other party was missing some spirit stones, not some, but a lot. Sister Yin, 500 spirit stones are not enough, how much do you lack? Zhou Hu suddenly asked strangely. There are generally 2 uses for spirit stones. One is for cultivation, and the other is for trading. Here is the spirit sword. Zone, trading has always used points, but when it comes to cultivation, 500 spirit stones are enough. Senior sister Zhou's kindness has been accepted, but the younger sister has already decided that it is better to go home first. Yin Kaiozhu replied nonchalantly. Zhou Hu's face flushed immediately, and he secretly hated that he was not born rich, and that he couldn't seize this kind of courtesy opportunity. I don't know if there will be such a good opportunity next time. But at this moment, a huge black eagle with golden eyes and iron feathers suddenly fell from the sky, and rushed towards the position of Zhou Hu's trio. The many unreasonable disciples in the audience suddenly exclaimed. Boom! The black eagle settled less than 10 feet in front of Zhou Hu. The strong aura pressured the field. The eagle was about 2 stories tall. Zhou Hu stood in front of it like a giant standing in front of it. Child! Disciple Zhou Hu, I have met Elder He. Zhou Hu immediately stepped forward and said. As soon as the voice fell, an old man in a Liu Yun Taoist robe jumped off the eagle's back. When they saw this person, Fan Zhen and Yin Kaiozhu also hurried forward to bow. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Disciple Fan Zhen, I have met Elder He. Disciple Yin Kaiozhu, I have met Elder He. He Li nodded slightly, his face was a little gloomy, and when he saw Yin Kaiozhu, his frowning eyebrows stretched slightly. There is Mo Dao Xiao Xiao attacking in this door. The old man only delayed for a while. He Li said solemnly, this is not to explain the reason for his lateness, but to remind Zhou Hu 3 people, don't accidentally be tricked. Zhou Hu was shocked and asked hurriedly, the Spirit Sword sect is heavily guarded. Who on earth would dare to come here to commit the crime? Hey! If it's a foreign enemy, the old man has already captured it. He Li said coldly, we will discuss this later, and the assessment will begin now. Seeing that Elder He didn't want to say anything, Zhou Hu didn't dare to ask more. He then walked to the stage and said loudly to the many disciples underneath, guys, brothers and sisters. The internal assessment of this school has been around for a long time. Not much to say, just repeat the rules here. There are 3 tests in the inner door assessment. The first is a profound strength test. Those who are younger than 20 and have a profound strength of 6 or more are qualified. The second is a sword skill test, which can be passed by junior sister Yin. 3 swords can pass the level, and the third item is actual combat. Zhou Hu said this, turned his head and looked at He Li, and when he saw that the other party had nothing to add, he said directly, "Inner door assessment, start now." The outer disciples under the stage suddenly made a noise, and the inner door assessment that had been waiting for a full 2 hours finally began. At the moment, a teenager in white clothes of about 17 years old jumped onto the stage and shouted, "I'll come first. You reading book friends are welcome to visit and read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serial works are all in UU Reading. For mobile phone users, please go to read." The crowd in an obscure corner. "Who is this man?" Han Yi suddenly asked. He called Song Chu, condensable 7th, his outspoken, outer we disciples of the top 3 players, enter one of the most promising in the door of a few people this year. Luo Gang said slowly, "Introduce each other to the station on that teenagers in the background." Han Yi nodded his head, his eyes are watching Song Chu, but the thought was, blood rich, although qualified worse, but the potential is very good, such a person's essence and blood people much stronger than equal Zhu, but now his blood was too wasteful, have a chance to fatten him, at least so he broke through the border scrapping extension Yuan. Then, turning to turn Han Yi in autumn snow, "This is a better material, such as opening up after yourself Yuan see, the other side may find an opportunity to secretly make Swanu." They were talking when the Song Chu stage has started the first test, the disciples holding a tray with Fan Zhenling Chu Sung Sik sent to the front. This strain of the spirit planted a foot tall, look-like shaped section of the same dead wood. This is especially cultivated through this door wooden sword heart, designed for subglottic disciples' mysterious force test purposes. Song Young, just take this wood in your hand, but there is no need to stress what the situation, you can listen to my instructions. Fan Jane smiled and explained. Song Chu nodded, "Not nonsense," picked up the wooden sword through the heart, the next moment directly from the tray, his body just like a mysterious force of the floodgate opening, the rapid influx of macaroni wooden sword. Well. Song Chu suddenly took a breath, macaroni wooden sword nearly disposed of. He puzzled looked to Fan Zhen, who was surprised to find unmoved, looks like a great interest. Song Mingwu Chu suddenly the hearts, which is also a part of the test, he immediately bite, firmly grasped the wooden sword through the heart, fighting back pain mysterious force was withdrawn in vitro. See here, where Li elders nodded, Song Chu heart this next performance is more than a hint of expectations. Click, click. This time, a sudden flurry of abnormal sound on the wooden sword through the heart, followed, slowly give birth to new green leaf tracks of the original dry wooden sword, right down to 9 when just stop. 9 flag leaf, the 7th condensable gas, mysterious force test by announced, Zhou Huli time, and then he looked back at what Li elders, smiled slightly, 9 flag leaf is nothing, but the flag leaf vibrant, sweeping away wooden sword through the heart of the brown gas, indicating the potential for Song Young amazing, breakthrough extension Yuan territory just a matter of time, if the door to attend this core exercises, back across the border Jinwu not impossible. He nodded his head Li, Song Chu this is indeed a good seed, even more unusual is his amazing perseverance, can escape through the heart of silent hold back the wooden sword drawn the pain of mysterious force, but a lot of this is difficult to do the disciples to do. One can see how this kid actual combat, if you can, they received the apprentice. Holy mind secretly thinking. At the same time, after the opening of the heart pine wooden sword, Song Chu felt covered with a light, before all pulled out all the mysterious force has returned to his body, and kindred wooden sword is once again back intact. It's wonderful. My mysterious force seems to be more a condensate real, said Song Chu surprise. Fan Zhen smiled, after the recovery of macaroni wooden sword, she retreated behind Tiger Weeks. Song Young, you mysterious force enough, the next step to test your sword by the Yin junior sister apprentice. Zhou Hu then said. Song Choli nodded when the heart does not agree, Yin autumn snow disciples yes, but she only condensable 9 mysterious force, but he is also the 7th condensable gas, not to mention swords, sword is 30 I could take over. Song Young, Ready for it, Yin Autumn Snow stepped forward faint asked, despite put your horse over. Song Chu confident shouted. Rapier scabbard, Yin Chu Song Autumn Snow sword stabbing chest, smooth, without any fancy. Song Chuli operation when the mysterious force, went up sword fiercely Autumn Snow Yin Jian Feng, intends to fight back immediately after took the sword. But, just when he thought this, two swords clash, immediately uttered a crisp Jian Ming Yin Autumn Snow that seemingly floating sword actually contains unparalleled Julie. All of a sudden, Song Chu's entire right arm of collapse, officials are numb, sword unstable just the right moment. Song Chu sudden heart aghast, how is this possible? Even extension you and mysterious teacher nor the territory of such a great strength And look at each other the way they dress, apparently not do everything, then there are two swords, called himself then how? The second sword. Yin Autumn Snow dull voice sounded again, and then stabbing sword the same position Song Chu chest. Song Chu grey face defeat, totally did not just high-spirited, his hands Wojian, again with Yin Autumn Snow on a sword fight. Clang! Song Chu annealing a few steps, chest blood churn, managed to catch herself, it was a round two simple sword, has consumed his body batch in mysterious force, do not think, the last sword he is definitely not catch. The third sword. Yin Autumn Snow spoke, he rapier piercing. Song Chu barely lift the sword, to muster all the rest of the body mysterious force, then do not have any hope fired a final sword. Ding! When the two swords were touched, Yin Kaiuxiu immediately took the sword and returned it to its sheath, while Song Chu, who was standing in the same place, stared at the long sword in his hand in a daze. Before he was happy, Zhou Hu's voice came, congratulations, junior brother Song, for passing the sword skill test. You should take a good rest. The actual combat for a while is not as easy as it is now. Yes. Song Chu immediately responded. He felt that Zhou Hu seemed to have something in his words. After thinking about it carefully, it suddenly became clear that Yin Kaiuxiu's third sword was released. But this is not a special consideration for oneself, but a kind of prestige from the inner disciples to the outer disciples. The other party is telling herself that if she wants to pass the level, she will let herself pass the level, and she doesn't want to let herself pass the level. www.mtlnovel.com I can't pass the level anyway. After understanding this, Song Chu not only did not remember Yin Kaiuxiu, but looked at the other party with more admiration and awe. Next. Zhou Hu said loudly. Half an hour later, dozens of outer disciples have already been assessed. All of these people's profound strength is above the 6th level of qi condensation, but few can make Tongzhen Jianmu grow blue-green sword leaves. Most of them when people came into contact with Tongzhen sword tree, they were screamed again and again by the pain of pulling away from the profound strength, and then the sword leaves that were born were also withered and yellow in color and lacked vitality. Obviously, their future achievements were very limited. He Li sighed as he watched from the sidelines. The outer disciples who participated in the assessment this year didn't even have a Toiwan realm. It's fine if they didn't. There was no last year. But last year, Yin Kaiuxiu came out, but what about this year? Except for Song Chu who can see what wine and rice bags are the rest. The sword leaves formed by the 6 or 7 layers of condensing qi are already withered and blackened, and their potential is used up when they are only a teenager. Such a disciple will not necessarily be able to open up Yuanhai in this life, there is a far to receive the inner door. Seeing He Li's face was not good, Yin Kaiuxiu was also unambiguous. When the sword skills were tested, one sword was more ruthless than the other. Few of these outer disciples who were tested afterwards were able to walk a sword through her hands. In the end, including Song Chu, only 5 of them barely passed the first 2 tests. Strange. Why hasn't Zhu Jun appeared yet? Zhou Hu thought to himself. He finally opened the back door for the other party, but the other party actually dared to release his pigeon. However, at this moment, a familiar teenager walked onto the stage. I want an assessment. Han Yi said with a smile. www.mtlnovel.com book friends are welcome to visit and read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serial works are available at www.mtlnovel.com. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Senior brother Han is crazy. Luo Gang muttered to himself. He had been staring at the stage just now, but he hadn't noticed when Han Yi actually ran up. At the very least, the inner sect assessment must be a six-fold disciple. Participate, and the opponent's profound strength is the same as his own, with 3 levels of condensed energy. Isn't he taking his own humiliation when he goes up right now? At the same time, Zhou Hu on the stage also recognized Han Yi's identity. He couldn't help but sneered in his heart, but he didn't show the slightest expression on his face. He calmly asked, "Junior brother Han, your profound strength has reached the 6th level of condensed energy." Han Yi nodded, and naturally replied, "I have condensed 7-fold. 7th condensation chi? I remember that right. A few days ago, your profound strength was still spinning 3-fold, right?" Zhou Hu asked with a sneer. Because of Yin Kaiozhu's sake, he looked very uncomfortable with the other party, and now has the opportunity to make things difficult. The other party, naturally, can't let it go. After hearing these words, He Li also looked over suddenly. In a few days, he went from the 3-fold cultivation of condensing qi to 7-fold condensing qi. Either he was talented or cheated. Han Yi smiled faintly. He had already prepared for this question. He pointed to Yin Kaiozhu not far away and said, "My fiancé gave me 10 qi-enhancing pills. 1 per day, my profound strength has soared to 7 levels of condensed qi. What's so strange? 10 qi-enhancing pills." There was a moment of silence on stage and off stage. The normal market price of a qi-enhancing pill is between 100 and 200 spirit stones. Because only the spirit sword sect can refine it, there has always been a price but no market for 10 qi-enhancing pills. That is to say, at least 1,000 spirit stones. As long as it is not used for cultivation, you can spend your whole life carefree, eating, drinking and having fun every day. I didn't expect Yin Kaiozhu to be so kind to her fiancé. This is the common idea of everyone present. Zhou Hu was just about to watch Han Yi's show. His face suddenly became gloomy and terrible after hearing this. Zhu Jun's useless waste, why didn't he tell himself about such an important thing? Junior brother Han, please pay attention to your name. We are no longer in that kind of relationship. Yin Kaiozhu said coldly, her anger was no less than Zhou Hu. I have already terminated the marriage contract with the other party, and the other party dared to use that kind of intimate vocabulary to call myself. If it weren't for the situation right now, I would have greeted the past with a sword. It's just that Han Yi didn't care about this question at all. He directly said to He Li, "Elder He, can I start the test now?" He Li frowned. The profound energy urged by qi-enhancing pill had no future at all. Presumably, the result of the Tongzhen swordwood test must also be the kind of withered and black sword leaves, but the other party has 7 condensed qi. His profound strength, the qualifications for the assessment are indeed still there. Thinking of this, He Li sneered. Although he knew that the other party was wasting time, he still replied, "Yes." The next moment, Fan Zhen brought Tongzhen Jianmu to Han Yi's face. Looking at this unremarkable but incomparably wonderful Tongzhen sword wood, Han Yi did not immediately reach out for it. What he had just observed from the audience was very clear. This Tongzhen sword wood can very intuitively reflect profound strength. For the purity and form, if you hold it directly in your hand, you may have a few leaves that are soaring to the sky. By then, your profound strength test will pass, but you will have endless troubles. I can't think of a small sect that doesn't even have a profound master in the broken realm, that can actually cultivate such a wonderful spiritual plant. Han Yi secretly said in his heart, and at the same time ran a legendary swordsmanship in his memory, and then reached out to grab it. Xiang Tongzhen Jianmu. Jianmu started with it, and there was a hint of coldness from it. Unexpectedly, the profound energy in his body was absorbed by him. Han Yi's expression did not change at all. The huge pain of tearing profound energy for ordinary people was so long for him. Feng Shuang's demon is not enough to see, his mind is all concentrated in Tongzhen sword wood, and he is studying this mysterious plant seriously. Hey! He Li suddenly became suspicious, and muttered to himself, is this kid not in pain? The profound strength was forcibly pulled out of his body, like the pain of cramping and skinning, he didn't even blink his eyelids. Zhou Hu and the three people also noticed this at the same time, and they all showed different colors. Haha! Surprising perseverance alone is of no use. He has taken so many qi-enhancing pills and he has destroyed his own future. Most of the condensed sword leaves have no vitality. Zhou Hu suddenly smiled, and his eyes looked aside involuntarily. Yin Kaiozhu. What does his future do to me? Yin Kaiozhu replied coldly. However, just as the two were talking, Tongzhen Jianmu and Han Yi's hand finally changed. Click, click. After a crisp sound, an icy chill gushes from the Tongzhen sword wood, and then, 7 ice crystal lotus flowers grow from the sword wood at the same time. Suddenly, the whole Tongzhen Jianmu was gone, and it turned into a boundless chill. Transformed into meaning. He has mastered the sword intent, and he is still in the cold ice sword intent. He Li suddenly lost his voice and said in shock. He stared at the 7 ice crystal lotus flowers on the Tongzhen sword wood, his eyes could not hide the shock. The profound strength of the condensed energy can only produce a sword leaf, but the other party directly produced a sword lotus. Sword leaf and sword lotus, the two seem to have the same origin, but in fact they are very different. The former is only transformed by pure profound energy, while the latter has a sword-shaped sword intent. This shows that the opponent has found his own way in Kendo, even if there is no chance, no famous teacher to guide him, he will achieve extraordinary achievements in the future. He Li sighed secretly in his heart. He realized his Kendo when he was a teenager. It is like the first extremity cliff in the east. There was such a genius disciple. The other party once asked Tongzhen Jianmu to give birth to begonia flowers. Diffuse, how similar is it to Han Yi's cold air at this moment? Oh! What a pity! What a pity! The more I understand this www.mtlnovel.com, the more heartbreaking He Li will be. If you knew that such geniuses were hidden in the sect, they would be introduced to the inner gate as soon as possible. In 2017, there will be one more powerful person in the real martial realm and even the bright realm in the clan. But now it's too late, and the Qi condensing triple layer reaches the Qi condensing layer 7, and the opponent has actually taken 4 Qi enhancing pills. What foundational talent is there that can't be defeated? It would be a miracle for the opponent to break through the Toiwan realm in this life. Elder He, this. At this time, Zhou Hu suddenly asked hesitantly. For the first time he saw something other than the sword leaf growing on the Tongzhen sword wood, and he didn't know what to do. He Li sighed long and looked at Han Yi with a complicated expression before replying, 7 sword lotus, 7 levels of condensing qi, a grade A qualification that has been seen in a century, but the future is completely ruined by qi enhancing pill. Zhou Hu frowned at the beginning, but when he heard the last sentence, he suddenly felt relieved, and subconsciously glanced at Yin Kaiozhu next to him, but saw that the other party didn't react at all. The profound strength test passed. Zhou Hu said loudly. Hearing this, Han Yi quickly put down the Tongzhen sword tree, and the 7 sword lotus turned into profound energy and returned to his body, but not only did he not feel more solidified in profound energy, he felt uncomfortable all over. Ordinary kendo techniques can't suppress the breath of dark blood and magic arts, only the cold heart art of the Emperor Kongling can do it. Han Yi secretly said, but the cold heart art is incompatible with my physique. If it continues to operate, it will really ruin my foundation. I have to quickly refine those kinds of magic pills. Just as he was thinking about it, Johu went on to say, "Junior brother Han, we will test your sword skills next. www.mtlnovel.com. We welcome all book friends to visit and read. The latest, fastest and most Huo's serialized works are all at www.mtlnovel.com. For mobile phone users, please go to read." As soon as the voice fell, Yin Kaiozhu had already stood in front of Han Yi. "Junior brother Han, are you ready?" Yin Kaiozhu asked indifferently. She now looks at Han Yi just like an ordinary outer disciple. To be precise, it is even more unpleasant than an ordinary outer disciple. Han Yi smiled and glanced at each other. Yin Kaiozhu is talented, but loves vanity. Since she was her fiancé after all, she can do it by herself and plant her a demon. "Sister Kaiozhu, don't keep your hands. Use your 1-2 point strength." Han Yi replied immediately. "Okay." Yin Kaiozhu immediately responded, "Hey, let's go all out?" She couldn't ask for it. Yin Kaiozhujian pierced Han Yi's eyebrows straight after it was out of its sheath. The movements seemed normal, but in fact, the profound energy of the whole body had been urged to the extreme. Not to mention that the opponent is just 7 layers of qi condensation, even the ordinary profound master in the early stage of the Toiwan realm would not dare to surprise him. However, seeing that the opponent is coming on fiercely, Han Yi didn't look anxious at all. He lifted the long sword calmly, and when the tip of the opponent's sword was about to touch his eyebrows, he suddenly used a small voice that only the other party could hear. Said, "Your father already knows that you owe 14,000 spirit stones for gambling." This sentence was quick and urgent, but every word was clearly conveyed to Yin Kaiozhu's ears. "What did you say?" Yin Kaiozhu was startled, and there was an inevitable flaw in the operation of her profound energy. Although she quickly stabilized the sword again, how old Han Yi's eyes were! Immediately, the sword slashed across, breaking the face with a point, easily dissolving the sword. Ding! After blocking this sword, Han Yi immediately took a few steps backwards. It seemed to outsiders that he could not bear Yin Kaiozhu's sword strength and was shocked back, and in He Li this true martial art realm. In the eyes of the teacher, it was Yin Kaiozhu who suddenly regained strength, deliberately showing mercy for some reason. "What did you just say? Say it again." Yin Kaiozhu asked angrily, "When did he gamble? It's true that I owe the other party 14,000 lingxi, but, wait. Could it be that?" Han Yuhao flicked the long sword in his hand in a leisurely manner, and said, "Sister Kaiozhu, it's time for the second sword." Yin Kaiozhu immediately became angry, and she immediately guessed that it was a conspiracy. The other party asked her to write down 2 eas on the same day, but it was not to earn spirit stones at all, but to threaten her with a bargaining chip. Thinking of this, Yin Kaiozhu immediately waved away all distracting thoughts and shook hands with the rapier. The IOU of the 14,000 spirit stones can be explained to her father afterwards. Now, no matter what tricks the other party has, let him fail the test first. Second sword. Yin Kaiozhu immediately shouted. This sword pierced Han Yi's right shoulder. She wanted to let the other party know the fate of teasing herself. This sword is not as stable as the first sword, but the speed is twice as fast. In Han Yi's current state, he can naturally stop it with his full strength, but he was not prepared to do it at all. He saw his lips and teeth moved slightly, and an inaudible voice reached Yin Kaiozhu's ears. "Another IOU, I am going to sell it to Yushun Court in Moyun City." Yin Kaiozhu staggered, almost spit out a mouthful of blood. Both the Yin family and the Han family live in Moyun City, while Yushunyuan is the largest and very background brothel in the city. The other party really wanted to sell the IOU to Yushunyuan, the consequences would be unimaginable. What does it mean that a girl owes a large debt to the brothel? Among other things, how can you owe a brothel debt if you haven't been in a brothel? And what does that mean if a young girl has been in a brothel? Once this kind of thing spreads, there is no way to explain it. Even if I fill in the debt immediately, it is difficult to stop the rumors about myself that are not spread in Moyun City everywhere. Ding! Han Yi once again blocked the second sword, because Yin Kaiozhu was so confused, he could fight it effortlessly. Sister Kaiozhu, please play the third sword. Han Yi reminded very kindly. Yin Kaiozhu's face was cold, and she finally understood the true meaning of the word personal heart. I didn't expect this Han Yi to look dignified on the outside, but so sinister on the inside. What do you want? Yin Kaiozhu asked immediately. She didn't dare to make the third sword. God knows what shocking words the other party would say. You take the sword first. Han Yi replied immediately. Yin Kaiozhu frowned, the other party openly threatened herself during the test. This is already a serious breach of the rules of the door. Why didn't Elder He react at all? Thinking like this, Yin Kaiozhu immediately glanced at Elder He Li, but saw that the other party was looking at herself with frown. It turns out to be the sound transmission. Yin Kaiozhu immediately realized that Han Yi's two threatening words used to transmit sound. Even if they are close, they can't hear them. They can only use Qi Kiz Hong. Shu Qi transmits sound, the other party's subtle control of profound energy is taken seriously. Calmed down a little bit, Yin Kaiozhu mentioned the thin sword again. She had a clear understanding in her heart, and the third sword could just behave casually. The reason why the other party threatened her in this way was nothing more than trying to pass this test. Sister Kaiozhu, do you look down on me? Only using these flower fists to embroider swords can't help me. Hope your last sword can give me a little interest and use your strongest sword. Han Yi suddenly said shamelessly. Yin Kaiozhu was immediately gritted with anger. Can this despicable be more shameless? Huiquan embroidered sword? You have the ability to take a sword hidden. It's just that, thinking like this in her heart, Yin Kaiozhu had to rely on the other side and said, okay. That's what you want. After finishing talking, Yin Kaiozhu stabs the opponent with a third sword. This sword is not as powerful as the first sword, and the speed is not as fast as the second sword. The whole set of movements are soft, how can there be any power? Yes, this sword is useless even for her profound strength, even a child who has just condensed heavily can catch it. But she knows very well that this is the strongest sword that the other party wants, because the other party is telling the truth. Ding! The swords and blades crossed. Han Yi immediately took a dozen steps back with his hands on his chest, and then coughed heavily wounded. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com side with how fake and fake expressions are, as expected, senior sister Kaiozhu's strongest sword. It is really powerful. If it weren't for the junior brother, I have deep profound strength and unparalleled sword skills, I am afraid it would not be so easy to take this sword. Yin Kaiozhu's face turned red and white, she knew that she had been fooled by the other party again. If the first two swords were threatened by the opponent before they didn't show their strength, then this third sword, in everyone's eyes, was that he was cheating openly for each other. Today's shame, he will pay it back 10 times in the future. Yin Kaiozhu said with hatred in her heart. After the 3 swords have been completed, she returned to her original position, but she didn't even notice it. At this moment, it was deep in her eyes. There was a hint of black air faintly flowing there. After 2 breaths of silence on the court, Zhou Hu, who was in charge of the inner gate assessment, forgot to step forward and announce the result. Of course, this is not his negligence of duty, but what Han Yi's sword skill test actually tested. Thing? Is this a pass? I won't talk about the first 2 swords. Yin Kaiozhu released the water, but the third sword is also called a competition? Acting so fake, really treat everyone on the scene as idiots. Sister Yin. Zhou Hu stopped talking. Let him pass. I will personally ask the sovereign for this matter. Yin Kaiozhu replied without hesitation. Zhou Hu's expression changed. Yin Kaiozhu was a direct disciple of the suzerain. The other party said he was pleading guilty to the suzerain, but in fact he was using the name of the suzerain to crush herself. This matter must be done according to what she said. After realizing this, Zhou Hu glanced at Han Yi fiercely. Could it be that the relationship between the other two really developed to that point? Congratulations to junior brother Han for passing the sword test, Zhou Hu announced with a very ugly face. You reading book friends are welcome to visit and read. The latest, fastest, and hottest serial works are all in UU Reading. For mobile phone users, please go to read.